So why am I here? I've been called by my family naive, gullible, or just perhaps a fool, because I have honestly thought most of my life that if I just calmly explain rational, logical things to people, that they'll immediately understand it and change their lives. But I also have other qualities. One is that I've been called a subversive, or at least that's what my Girl Scout leader said I was when she kicked me out at age 10. But I also tend to do what I'm told when it comes to the church. So when I hear a pastor should, I do. I'm a Lutheran. So am I subversive? Am I obedient? Yes. And to what do I respond obediently? At our 2011 Synod Assembly, we passed a resolution that approved that the Synod would claim and practice an anti-racist identity. Does anybody remember that we did that in 2011? What we said was that the Southeastern Pennsylvania Synod shall claim and practice an anti-racist identity and actively seek full participation and shared power in its committees, task forces, policies, procedures, and practices, and in its mission and ministries, and be it further resolved that the Southeastern Pennsylvania Synod place a high priority on anti-racism education, training, and awareness within the Synod, and among its organizations, conferences, congregations, and members, examine its own systems, institutional and cultural practices for racist policies, procedures, and practices, and intentionally change those that do not reflect an anti-racist identity, that we may dismantle racism in its various manifestations where it may be found, and be it further resolved that the Southeastern Pennsylvania Synod, through its bishops and other leaders, call upon its organization, conferences, congregations, and members through prayer, education, attitude shifts, and actions to diligently work to be anti-racist in their own practices and lives, and prayerfully and actively support anti-racism education, training, and work as central to its future. I've been part of the Synod's Anti-Racism Team off and on for several years. And the reason why that's important to me is because I look around and I don't understand why things don't change. And I also know that it's easy for us to have those moments where we cry, we feel like there ought to be a difference, and then we go to lunch. So I'm asking you to think about it. The last time we had an anti-racism team before the present group of people, we were prepared to come out to your congregations and do anti-racism training. A few of you asked, or maybe it was one. We're here, and I'll tell you this again later at the end of our next session. But the reason that I'm participating in this is because this is not something we can leave to other people. Somebody said yesterday they hope that God would get this done. Well, God's been telling us to get it done forever. It's not different now than it was then. The only way this gets done is that God has given us these tasks at baptism to love everyone, to love our brothers and sisters in Christ, to love the people that are with us all the time, and to do it openly. And so that is what we are called to do. So if we're going to live out our baptismal covenant, if we're going to live out the practices that we've promised to do, then we have to not just stop with people like ourselves. I can't just go in and out of places that are white. I have to go other places too. And I have to make a point of it, because I have lived in places during my life where there weren't a lot of people of color. My first call was to the Eastern North Dakota Synod, where someone who was different was somebody with green eyes instead of blue. So I ask you to take seriously what you hear today, what you heard yesterday. And I ask that when you hear the stories of other members of our team later this morning, that you take very seriously what they say, and that you hear the words that are coming from their mouths, and that you hear them in a way that makes you act. It's fine to hear and go to lunch, as long as after lunch you get to work. Thank you.